This is the Relentless podcast. My name is Christine. I'm a small business owner and student of success. I have become obsessed with talking with other entrepreneurs about their strategies, struggles, tactics, and routines. One of the key qualities that all of these individuals have in common, their ability to be relentless. Hey guys, welcome back to the Relentless podcast. I'm sitting forward in my chair because I'm so pumped up. I feel like I could run through a wall right now. I just wrapped up a conversation with my friend, Alessio. If you're from the area, I'm sure you know him, but if not, he's been in recovery for 20 years, but it's just a small part of his story. It has been a catalyst for all these achievements and milestones that he's hit in his life. And he's just such an inspiring speaker and just has such a powerful message. So give this a listen. You won't regret it. Interview. Welcome to the show, Alessio.
Hello, Christine.
Yes, of course. When I put a poll out to our followers and I said, who do you guys want to see in 2024? I think your name came up at least 20 times. So everybody is so excited to hear from you. So tell us.
A lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure, but it's fun. I've heard bits of your story before, and I always leave feeling so inspired and impressed with you. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, currently, and for the past 31 years, I just had my anniversary. I'm a manager and leader at Bonadent in a laboratory here in town. I run the Dannerin division over at the laboratory. And it's obviously, a lot of people know, it's a great company to work for, and great Bonafiglia family is incredible. We all know that. So, I've had a variety of positions through the years. I ran the lab in Florida. And then was in sales. I actually started in pickup and delivery.
Okay.
Bruce had brought me on board at a kind of a transition period in my life, and we started there, and then kind of went into sales. So it's been a great ride and a great career then, and they've been supportive. So beyond that, I'm from Seneca Falls. My family was from Seneca Falls, and grew up here, went to high school here, and my father, as I was telling you on the way up, was a principal here in Seneca Falls in this building. Intermediate school. So, I had just a great upbringing and nothing to complain about there. Always been involved in sports, played basketball at Minders and in college at RIT. And that continues to be a big part of my life, coaching and, mentoring. Doing some training on the side sometimes. And most importantly, I got a great son. He's my stepson, actually, who goes to Temple University, and parenting has been incredible. So, and continues to be. So it's just been a great thing in life to be able to coach somebody along the way and see them succeed. So,
absolutely.
That's the bottom line of it. I mean, as far as my story goes, I'm in recovery. So, jeepers, 2004. My clean date is January 1st, 2004. So I just celebrated 20 years in January.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a road to that point where, I was always a partier, always kind of the clown and the the life of the party kind of guy, and throughout my life. And then as you get older, it's as much alcoholically as I drank, it was more just that was the habit that it was ingrained in my life. So I always held good jobs and held jobs.
Sure.
Was in the restaurant business out of college, and then at Bonadent, but it was never as good, potentially, as good as I could be.
Right.
And that was clear. People have always stuck by me and were rooting for me. And there had been lots of conversations along the way, and, some stopping points. I had an intervention at one point. Bruce Bonafiglia was obviously the closest to me at work and my family, but I was never able to hold on and stay clean. And then I started getting in trouble, with DWIs.
Yeah.
And work wasn't going well.
Yeah.
to a point where I was in a felony DWI situation.
Okay.
So you lose your license, and it's serious.
Very unmanageable. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had put me in drug court, which was a newer thing at that point here in Seneca Falls, and it gives you an opportunity to systematically clean up your act. There's a drug court team with Judge Mack here in town. The funny thing about it, my good friend Matt Verkey was on the team representing probation, and they were rooting for me. They had gotten me in, and it's tough. It's a tough road. You have to you go to court every week and report on how your week was, and in the spirit of honesty now. I had gone to rehab. They had put me in in-house rehab at Dick Van Dyke, and then I came out of it. I think I was clean for a little bit, but then started slipping back into it. And it's easy. I was never a home drinker. I was a bar guy.
Yeah. So, how old were you when this was all going down?
41.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was sneaking out, and I feel like probably some knew, but we're still kind of rooting that I'd get my head on straight. And they were but there was a point almost a year into it. I was probably coming up to graduation where they had clearly, and I started pushing the envelope a little bit and getting a little bolder with how often I was going out, or and one of the drug court sessions on a Friday, they called me out on it and put me in jail, and I had been in jail a couple times throughout drug court for something that they had found out, and they put you in for a weekend or something to shake you up a little bit. This time they left me in for a little bit longer, but didn't kick me out, which they could have. And when I tell my story, in that moment, I figured, okay, they're going to fire me about it. How long can this go on for?
Right.
But boy, Bruce, another one of my co-managers, Frank Bella, been there for 45 years, and Scott Johnson, who's down in Greenville now. They came to jail together.
Oh,
to tell me that they were sticking behind me, and that let's do this.
That's so powerful.
A little emotional sometimes.
I would too.
About it. So when I got out, I tried to take it more seriously, and as fate would have it, that was January of 2004. Wow. So although when I tell people my clean date's January 1st, a lot of people say, "Oh, how great that you decided probably on January 1st
New Year's resolution.
You were going to New Year's resolution." And no, I was in jail. And, I can't really say I ever had plans like, okay, you can't drink again, right? Or you're going to continue to get in trouble. However, with what the courts did was they put me on this thing called a sobriety, where it's in your house. And when you come home, you're on an ankle bracelet, and it sets it off. It's incredible technology. And you have to blow into it so it knows if you were drinking or not.
Yeah.
And it was just a level of accountability that I didn't cross.
Yeah.
So they had me on that for 6 months, and because I wasn't drinking anymore, I just was finally getting a chance to see how good it felt to feel good, to be clearer. I was running again, just little things.
Yeah.
And most people, when I graduated drug court, including myself, figured that I'd be out again. It was always fun in the bars. And, the bars were fun, and the people were fun, but it was the bar scene.
Yeah.
And I never went back out. I mean, it was like I say, the grace of God and a kind of a awakening that was it, and the feeling of feeling so good. I never went back out. And
you almost need that forced separation, though, because like you say, you were in your 40s, and so you had basically lived at least half of your life with alcohol in it. Yeah. So you almost don't know how to have fun without it. You don't know how to do a lot of the things in your daily life. And, I've shared on here a little bit of my story with addiction as well. I didn't share that I was also in drug court, which is actually how I heard your story the first time.
Yeah. I remember you.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that really stuck out, and it was similar for me, is the amount of people who believed in us. Yeah. And at the time, why? There had to be something in you and something in me that people saw that was worth believing in. And, I get emotional thinking about it too, because I don't know if I would have given someone else as much grace as I was given
Oh
in my
yeah.
life,
I agree
and
with you. I mean, yeah, especially I think of Judge Mack. I can picture that day when I was going to lie again when they call you up to that
yeah,
stand. How the week went. Oh yeah, 2 meetings, and I knew something was up, and he was so sad. He didn't have to be.
yeah,
He was hurt,
yeah.
and I
Oh,
don't
I'm
blame him.
sure.
So you're absolutely right, and I think the good thing about it now, probably for you too, is that when we help others
Hmm.
now, and I'm sure you're like me, that people turn to you, or you get a call from a loved one that,
Yeah,
my son is doing this, or my
yeah,
husband, or whatever, that you can almost smile and know that there's hope.
yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing, and
yeah. Well, and people know that I'm not judgmental because I'm like, listen, I've fucked up really bad. Like you can't shock me, I mean, and like you, it happened here. A lot of people, I feel like when they have that level of embarrassment or shame,
Mhm.
they feel like they need to run away and
Oh
start
yeah,
over. They can't rebuild here. Everybody knows all my skeletons. Everybody knows what
yeah,
happened. And yet, as you go down that path, people really root for you.
oh yeah,
They want to see you succeed. They want to see a comeback story. And that was something that was very surprising. I remember my dad said to me at one point, he goes, I can't go in the bank without everybody looking down. Because he
oh
was,
yeah,
he was just sure that everybody knew and nobody wanted to make small talk because I had just shamed everybody so much. And that was really hard.
yeah.
It was hard to feel like the embarrassment of the family, and like you said, I couldn't picture my life never drinking again. What the heck? Because I was 22.
Oh,
So
you
all
were?
of my friends were at the bar every weekend. That's where everyone was. So I had no friends for a long time. For
Yeah,
5 years, I didn't have a drop of alcohol. Obviously, my issue was more cocaine. But it was really difficult. And I couldn't picture my life getting better. I just knew when I was in drug court and be that accountability of, okay, I got to make 5 meetings, I've got to go to probation, I've got to do all these things. When I graduated, I was terrified
yeah,
because I
yeah,
was like, okay, nobody's checking on me. Like, I
yeah,
just have to do this for
yeah,
me now. Like,
yeah.
it was scary. And so, I was just kind of figuring it out. And Bruce was someone who gave me a chance to work at the cafe
Yeah,
while I was in drug
yeah,
court because I
yeah,
had to leave. And just those little glimmers of people that give you a chance, just it's so powerful because I feel
yeah.
like it changes everything.
Oh, it definitely does. And I remember your story or whatever,
Yeah.
because Matt Jones worked for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember
Yep.
him at one point coming to me. Well,
Yep.
I think when you still were in the throes
Oh
of
yeah.
and saying, I don't know what to. And I really didn't know you that well. I knew your mom,
Yeah.
of course, but he was,
Yeah.
wanting to know what
It was
possibly
bad.
could be
It was
done.
bad.
I think, it's as they say in the program, people, places, and things you got to change. And I was like you. I felt like maybe I can pull it off and not drink, but I still might go to the bars
Mm-hmm.
and play a dart league or watch the games. I did it one time.
Yeah.
And I went, and it was during a friend of mine was a big Yankee fan. I'm a Red Sox fan, and they were playing each other in, I think, the American League playoffs. And I went to the bar to watch the game, but I wasn't drinking,
Yeah.
and I was so bored.
Yeah.
I mean,
You realize people are not that fun when they're hammered.
and it was like 4 hours. I couldn't wait to get out of there. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God. And this was for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
My runs were like, get there at, if it was a weekend,
Oh
10,
yeah.
and you're still there as long as you can stand up until 7,
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
it's been a great ride. And it is important for the people around you. Like my parents were like, like yours, that they held their heads so high.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I tell my story, because I started speaking to like assemblies or
Yeah.
working with kids, that they sat in that front row at drug court graduation, just like I was
Yeah.
graduating high school
Yeah.
with smiles. I mean, they really, I had to go back and this is kind of comical, but I had to retake my road test at 40.
That's right. Yep.
2 or 3.
Uh-huh.
And the road test is you go to the same street over there by the SMS
Yes.
that it was back in 1976 when you had to take your road test.
Yeah.
So there I am again, just like then, with my mother in the back seat.
Yeah.
At 43.
A little humbling
as
moment.
I'm taking my road test, and she sat, and when I looked back, I had to look in my rear view mirror at one point, and she's in the back seat. And she saw me looking and just smiling at me, just and I'm
bless her heart.
Oh my God, totally. Anyway, I passed that road test.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah. Well, I remember that it was actually you were speaking at a Seneca County drug court, which I couldn't go to because my mom was in the court system, so they had to ship me to Wayne County.
Oh, right. Right.
But I went to that graduation because I knew you were speaking and I wanted to hear you speak. And there was something that you said that really stuck with me because at that time, like I say, I was very meeting heavy because of the requirements, but I also met some really great people. And I went to AA because I just didn't connect to NA. And the principles were pretty much the same. Yeah. But, and I thought to myself when I was going through it, I was like, oh my God, am I going to have to talk about drugs and alcohol every day though for the rest of my life? Like there were aspects of the program that didn't suit me as well. Yeah. And so I kept trying to picture what the future would look like. And I remember you saying something at that graduation and you said, I don't have to go to a meeting to remember I'm an alcoholic and that I can't drink. You're like, not drinking is the same as me needing oxygen, as me needing air. Like, and that just stuck with me because it was like, yeah, as long as that's the prerequisite and you're doing these other things to, treat the issues of why maybe you felt like you needed to use or drink all the time. And so that just always stuck with me. And I wanted to tell you that because it was, I hadn't gone to meetings. Gosh, it's been probably 10 years since I've been to a meeting.
Same here. I mean, and I tell people I don't, not because, I'm against that, but I stay connected by helping people, who come to me, or there's a lot of people around in recovery and just being the guy who talks about it. But I mean, that is one thing, not that there's a negative slant to the AA or NA, but I do feel if there was anything that there just needs to be more discussion on doing more than just staying clean and not drinking, because that you hit it on the head. That is what I say. It's like eating or breathing that I can't drink, but I want to, now what? Now what? There's more. Or what are your goals going to be? Or what are you going to do? So, because it's easy, especially as you get older. So bless your heart for being 22 or whatever when you got clean.
Yeah.
It's funny thing about age is that at 41, I felt, oh man, it's good. It's nice that maybe I'll be able to have some good years, but life kind of passed me by.
Yeah.
You're 41, you're old. I'm like, now I look back, and say,
just the beginning.
It was just the beginning, and that's so young in the grand scheme of things. You know, that is my main message. Certainly when I'm working with people, to try to let them know that, listen, just do it. You can't do it. So don't do it. And then start building and you'll get stronger as you see the things you can do because you're not drinking.
Right.
Whereas some people think like their life goal is just to not drink.
Right.
There's a lot more that we can be doing.
Yeah. And I certainly needed more than that. And it was exciting to, like you say, you're finally in a different frame of mind, a new one. I mean, it's not like you return to your old self. You really come out at just a changed person. I mean, people who knew me back then wouldn't know me at all now. I'm so different.
Yeah.
And it's exciting because you replace those, you're chasing different highs, for lack of a better word. And I mean, so much more fulfilling and sustaining and
healthy.
And healthy. And so for you, fitness and running and Ironmans were, so tell us a little bit about.
And that's what you hear. Wow, you just replaced drinking with, competing and whatever. So, and I don't know, maybe, but I don't, it doesn't really matter. I enjoy doing that. And it was able to, to give you something to focus on, something to have fun with, and something that was healthy. So that really was one of the first things I started doing, after that, first year out of drug court. You're staying clean. And, the backstory behind it is, I always was an athlete. And even through the years of drinking, there were little times, like, for instance, when I was in the restaurant business getting transferred around, I'd always join a gym when I got to a new city. And always said that this is going to be my fresh start. I'm going to not do coke anymore. I'm not going to not drink anymore. And that would last about a week, but I joined the gym. So I always saw myself first in a lot of ways as an athlete, somebody that, was going to stay in shape or run or whatever it might be. But it just, never worked out that way. However, there'd be moments when I'd see something like, I'd like to do that, or I'd start running for a little bit. So the triathlon, the Ironman triathlon specifically, was something that, it's like, they say it's the toughest of all races. And, so I had always watched it, when it was on TV, and remembered it, because the first one was, when I was about 18 in 1979 was when they did the first one. So I'd always say, oh, what a great goal that would be, to be able to do. But two things, I wasn't in any place to commit to that sort of training. I was still a big partier. Number two, I couldn't swim for the most part. Right?
You couldn't? No. I didn't know that.
So, and it's a 2.4 mile swim for
oh my
Ironman.
Gosh.
So, but nonetheless, it was more of a fantasy, really, at that point. But I knew Dr. Alexa had been an Ironman before. So I was like, you know what, maybe get a start. So I had called him and met with him, and he just told me a little bit about it. And then he had given me, triathlon, or like Ironman has a magazine, or triathlete have magazines that they used to put out. And he gave me a stack of them, and I would look through them and go, yeah, I can do this. But I mean, it really ended right there. So when I was clean then, it was about a year, and they had just started the Muscle Man over in Geneva. And I had talked to Bruce. I said, hey, I've always thought about trying something like this. What do you think about it? And I think he had discussions too, where he had been thinking about it.
Yeah.
So we signed up for it, the Muscle Man. And I feel like it was around January. When we decided to do it. It's a July race. So it was fun. We hired a coach. Mostly online stuff to set up your training. And then we started doing it. We were Bruce swam down at we're at his place in Geneva. I joined the college, but never really trained like I should. I hired a swimming coach just to kind of start to help me
teach you how to swim.
It's more fear, when you're. It's different than running, where you can stop.
Right.
When you're running, especially when you're in the lake, in the middle of the lake, there's a lot of fear involved. So I never put the training in that I should have, but at least I was comfortable in the water. So we trained. It was great fun training, doing it together, especially the biking. And so we went out that day, and I did a lot of those guys. Ended up, I think it was just me and him, actually. I think he's a good swimmer. Bruce was. So I had to just kind of backstroke and float, and then in these competitions they have kayaks out there that you can hang on to. That safety's an issue. So even when we end up doing the Ironman, they're out there. You can hang on for a little bit, and so in that race I kind of backstroked, held on, got a little bit. And so, I was the last one out of the water, and again, like way last, probably an hour after. And who's on the beach waiting for me? My parents, right? And you know who the other one who was waiting for me? I can't even remember why he was there. I think his wife did it. Eric von Bergen.
Oh my gosh.
Was there because I think maybe his wife, and he was waiting because he was there. I can't remember, but I got a kick out of it because that was my hangout.
Yep.
Right.
Owner of Reds.
He wasn't there for me. He was there
former owner
for Rebecca.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was our first one. So we did that one, and then
so it wasn't pretty, but you finished.
It was not pretty. I'm a really good runner, so I picked up a lot of ground on the run. But we got out there and got the Muscle Man. And now Bruce and Phil Worth, Dr. Worth, they decided to carry on and sign up for the Ironman the next year. Yeah, and I didn't at that point. So they did. They did the Ironman. Went up and watched them up in Lake Placid. Yeah, and then they were going to do it again they were going to skip a year. So I did it. I signed up and did it the next year.
Okay.
In Placid. Still wasn't a great swimmer. However, I made it. Again, I was the last one out of the water. And I made there's cutoffs now at this race.
Okay.
So you have to be out of the water by 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Okay.
2.4 mile swim.
Oh my gosh.
Or you're disqualified for the rest of the race. I'm 2 hours and 14 minutes. I made it. I was the last one out of the water. There's some great pictures of it. And it's a great tradition at Lake Placid. Everybody stays. All the fans stay.
Right.
Till the last guy's out of the water.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So I was the last one out of the water. They held my arm up in the air and there's like 3,000 people cheering me on. So that was incredible. And then I did two more after that.
So describe that feeling a little bit. So, you're in your 40s at this point. You've completely turned your life into something new. This is this new challenge that you're like, okay, I did something. Now let's see what else I can do. What was that feeling like for you?
So, it's a total feeling of gratitude all the way along. I mean, literally every moment of it. I have a super competitive side too. That if I was an excellent age, they call them an age grouper, where there would be a chance I could win my age group or be up towards it. Yeah. Might have a little different bend, but for the most part, when certainly for triathlons, I'm just thinking about how fortunate, even today, how fortunate I am to be in a position of health and clarity and mental, position and focus to be out there doing it, knowing, how the road, what the road would have ended up like, if you continued on. So it really is enjoyable. Fans are great when you do it. Yeah. They really are. The way they cheer you on when you're out there. That first race, this is heartwarming. The very first one, when I was the last one out of the water, when I got home, later on, the week, like it was like a week later, I got a card in the mail, right? Mm-hmm. And it was just from a random fan who had because you can check when you got your bib number. Yeah. And they must have saw my bib number and then checked what my name was and then probably just checked it down. And it said, I just want to tell you how inspiring it was. We saw you come out of the water last. And then we were there at the end of the day when you were running up the last hill and we saw your bib number. And we said, oh my God, look, it's 1521. Yeah. He was the one in the water. And they said, and we saw that you made it. Yeah. And we were so excited for you.
That's incredible.
I still have that card up. It meant a lot to me. But it's things like that are exciting and why, when I try to help other people or talk to other people or am more open in sharing, that I'm an Ironman or that I graduated college or these other little things. It's if nothing else, it's just to say that you can do anything, you just put your mind to it and believe that you can do it.
Yeah. So. And that it's not too late. I think that's such an important message. I mean, we live in an era too where we're exposed to so many people. And I mean, if you go online and see all these curated profiles, you see people in their early 20s and they're on private jets and they're doing all these things. And you're like, man, I'm not doing anything. Yeah. And so I think we have this like false pressure of like, okay, we got to hit this milestone by 30. We got to hit this by 35. And from hearing your story in the past, I know that you've hit many kind of life milestones since your sobriety date. So tell us a little bit about some of those things that maybe you didn't think would be in your story.
Well, probably the first one, although it didn't end up working out, I figured like, okay, you'll never get married or, have a serious relationship. So at 50, I got married, Maria, right? Yeah. And super, super, probably my best friend still. And, it didn't end up working out, but, I never thought I'd get married or have a beautiful wedding.
Have a child. Yeah.
And we did. We had a beautiful, large wedding, and everybody was there and super happy. And then the second milestone was having Nicholas involved in our life. I figure that ship had sailed. And you're brought up with great parents and see what the impact a father can have on you. A lot of people would love to be fathers and would be great fathers, including me. And I had the opportunity to be that. So, I mean, those were the first things, in addition to, work, being more successful as a leader at work. I was always doing okay, and had a pretty substantial role at Bonadin and worked closely with Bruce, even through the years of, addiction and, alcoholism. But, time would have run out. I wouldn't have been able to sustain that, in with good reason, But then, I graduated college. That's a decent story.
That is so crazy. I saw a post, I think, that you did on it, and I'm like, what?
Nobody did know. A girl I was going out with at that time knew I was doing it, but nobody else knew. Because I really wanted, especially Bruce, I wanted to surprise him when I knew I was at the point where I was going to graduate. So the backstory behind that is, so I went to RIT, and just kind of faded away. I started partying more. I was really there to play basketball. Anything. I'm smart, and like when I went to class, the few I went to, I did okay, but I pretty much was just partying, playing basketball, no showing, and then just kind of weaseled out the back door. So, it never graduated, right? So my my story was, when I was leaving, was that I had this opportunity in this restaurant company that I needed to take advantage. That's what I was telling my parents, and it was kind of true.
Somewhat true,
but not really. I left, and my recollection at that point was I didn't have that many classes left that I could have done it. But I took this job, and was good at it and successful at it, and then then I was off and running into my career.
Sure.
So my father, always, as an educator and as a good dad, literally any time for, you're talking 30 years, I bet. Let's see. Well, probably 20 years. At the end of our conversation, well, you ever think you'll go back and get that degree? And he knew I didn't need it. I was with Bonadin.
Right.
It wasn't like they were demanding that you have a higher education degree. But he asked me, and I'd always say, I'm thinking about it, Dad. I may look into it. And then it kind of faded. He wasn't asking as much anymore. Then probably, I don't know, let's see, 2016 or 15, we did a lean Six Sigma manufacturing training. It's an operational sort of continuous improvement training that you go through and get different colored belts. And the training was at RIT. So I hadn't been there since 1986 or 5 when I left there. And it just brought back memories of what could have been, or all the buildings that I never went in because I never went to class, right?
You probably had Dad's voice in the head.
Well, he was still alive then.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, Dad, I said I was back at RIT. And that's all he needed to hear. So for 4 more years, I had to hear, back to the end of the conversation, that, you ever think you should go back and get that degree? Because at that point I was thinking about it again. So he passed away, and I didn't do it for this reason, but there was a point, it was COVID had hit, and I just said, you know what, it would be a fun goal to do it. So I reached out to RIT. They still had my records as it came out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, as it turned out. So I talked to an advisor, and they were supposed to be sending me my transcript so I can figure out what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So had that conversation, and as always, it was the first step. So I was feeling good and a little nervous, and I always check in my mailbox. And there it was one day, I checked my mailbox, RIT letter. I opened it up, and it said, we can't release your transcripts yet because you still owe $850. I said, this college has the best accounting system ever.
40-year-old debt.
Yeah, old debt. I couldn't believe they still had it.
Oh my
gosh. So
gosh.
I paid it.
Yeah.
And then got my transcript. So as it turned out, I had more classes than I remembered that I needed. But they have a program, independent study kind of program in school.
Okay.
They set me up with I had a great advisor, and you can do a lot of online courses, not only through RIT. There's a lot of platforms out there that you
Yeah.
pick courses and you do them online, and it's tough, but it was fun.
Yeah.
And so I probably had 12 or 14 courses that
Oh,
I needed
wow.
to do. 2 of them you had to do through RIT
Okay.
online. And I just started chipping away at them. And
Wow.
over the course of 2 years, I'd finish one. Sometimes I'd take a couple at a time and
Yeah.
would get the grade and, you get proctor exam and everything. But it was fun being a student. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish, I was engaged as a student,
Yeah.
but it wasn't meant to be then.
Sure.
But I was a good student and I learned a lot. I wasn't just going through it, checking
Yeah.
the boxes just to get the degree.
You wanted
I was
to be
trying
there.
to be a good student.
Yeah.
And the last class I finished it and I couldn't wait to tell Bruce first and my sister Stacey and
Now,
did
was
some
your
post-
dad still alive when you
No,
graduated?
No.
Okay.
He wasn't even alive when I started. I probably would have told him that I was doing it.
Yeah.
He'd be so excited about it. So
Yeah.
he wasn't, but that had a lot to do. So, and it was
Sure.
the first year that they allowed you to walk the stage. So,
Right,
because it was
'cause
right
it was
during
during
COVID. So the
COVID,
year
yeah.
before, they didn't have any ceremony. So
Oh
this
my
was the first year
gosh.
they did it. So this even gets even better. So the first year I was at RIT was the first year of the basketball coach, the new basketball coach there. His name is Bob McVane.
Okay.
And it was his first year there. He's still there,
Okay.
even now. And he was there a couple years ago.
Wow.
I talked to him a couple times, but I told him what was going on. He called him.
Yeah.
Said, hey, listen, I'm graduating. And I said, I'm going to be there for the ceremony. He goes, I'll be there. He goes, stop
Oh
in
my
the office,
gosh.
right? So I got there early in the morning, went down. We talked for a couple hours, and it was great. And he says to me, hang on one second, I got to go get something. So he left me in his office, and he came back, and he had like one of those. There's a name for those sashes like you wear over yourself for a variety of things,
Yes.
like if you summa cum laude or
Yep.
so there's sometimes ropes or something.
Yes.
This one was an orange sash with they're the RIT Tigers, 2 tigers on the bottom of it.
Oh my
And he
God.
said, I want you to wear this during graduation. This is what these student athletes are allowed to wear when they graduate.
Oh my gosh.
So I said, oh my God, this just keeps getting better and
I
better and
know.
better. So I was I'm in the bathroom before graduation, sending everybody selfies of my orange
gosh.
sash. So, and then I got a chance to, there was no people could come at that point, but
Yeah.
I got a chance to walk across the stage. And my sister, one of my nieces said that certainly we all know Dad was with me, but as well as Mom and others. But she said, she goes, I think this would have been my dad's proudest moment because
Probably.
he said it all the time to everybody.
Yeah.
So
Well, and so how did that feel for you? Was it another kind of just overwhelming gratitude moment? Were you
for
proud?
sure.
I mean, do you take time to acknowledge how proud you are of your work, or is it more?
I do. But I also feel like putting that out there, like you said, lets others know that they can do it too.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything magical.
Right.
It's not being bragging if I do a post.
No, yeah.
People need to know that they can do it.
Yes.
And then, not only if they're 40 or 60 or whatever, that when you act on things or, inquire about things, it's often a lot simpler than you think, right?
Yeah.
So that was a big one because, I carried that with me for a long time and I still do that. All my friends graduate. Most people graduate when they go to college.
Mm-hmm.
It just was another ship that sailed on me. But
right.
I always was, I'm super proud of that. I got my little picture in my diploma at home.
Yeah. That's so incredible. And I know, I mean, you're obviously a high achieving person. And so a lot of high achievers don't always take those moments to acknowledge themselves and the work that they did. And, I know that you do seem to do a lot of this for other people and to prove to other people. But do you think there is a little part of you that kind of needs these big, lofty goals to prove to yourself what you can do?
I don't know. I still have them. I think that I feel like it allows me to just set some steps and two goals to just always be
working towards
working
something.
towards something. So,
Yeah.
Recently I've been asking myself that because, although I'll probably work till 70, I think.
Yeah.
A lot we have going to Bonadon. I think, I got a lot of gas in the tank.
Yeah.
There, so, but, how busy do you always want to be? That's what I start asking myself. Like, do you always want to be going 24/7? So,
yeah.
I don't know. I think I've shifted gears a little bit to the kind of things I'm getting involved with. So they're maybe not as personal, like an Ironman or a, getting your degree or something. I try to, I'm on a couple boards to help out with and things like that. But I don't know. I feel like I'm just a person that's just needs something to do and wants to stay involved in a variety of things and.
Yeah, I can relate. I've said this on the show before, but I heard Phil Mickelson talking about how if he wasn't obsessed with golf, he would self-destruct. And he's like, I have this energy inside me and it's got to go into something positive or it's not going to be pretty. And when I heard that, it just kind of went off in my head because I'm similar in that, I am relentless with my business and success. And I had a big weight loss journey at one point. And I always have these goals and things that I have to be working towards something. I have to be channeling good energy. I mean, it was January of last year when I was decorating this studio. And I'm like, I've kind of always wanted to start a podcast. I'm like, who the hell am I to start a podcast? Nobody wants to hear me talk, And I'm like, but it's not just me talking. It's kind of being a conduit so that people can hear other people like yourself. And because people have great stories. And I was so inspired when I heard you all those years ago. And I still think about that moment sometimes. I don't really ever think about using drugs. I have a little bit of a hatred toward them now because of what they did to me, or I let them do to me. But, I just think it's so powerful. And I think in some ways you inspired me a little bit because a lot of people, when they have a shameful past, they don't want to share it.
Yeah.
They make their life better. And it's like, whew, hope I never have to talk about that again, And so I think it's a really bold thing to be so candid and share those parts of yourself because there is something very powerful about a before and quote after story,
And I think that's the thing, we have to remember is that often, it doesn't necessarily need to be a before and after. We're all
works in progress,
evolving, all the time. That it's just different versions of you are evolving. So it's and as I'm sure you are with other people to be inspiring. To hear you say that you remembered that, I know exactly what you're talking about. Drug court.
Yeah, that
was my main message to those graduates. That short of saying, hey, don't rely on AA or NA or whatever, to remember that there's more to it than that. Those are the moments that really hit home to inspire me to say, okay, you made a difference, Christine, others too, that's what it's all about. And those are the things I find that depending upon where you're at in life, are more precious to you.
Yes.
Than the materialistic things or title at work or the money you make or these other things. It's the timing's funny. I shared, we had a workshop at Bonadon last week and we, in with Danielle and some of the executive team and as an icebreaker for everybody to get to meet each other, because there were some new people there, you were asked to bring something to the meeting that was near and dear to you, and prepare to just tell a little story about it, right?
Yeah.
So people had some pictures of their kids and some other nice experiences to share. And so what I shared, and which is true, as simple as it was, when my son and his whole group, so I kind of was like the guy who oversaw this whole group of all these people in his grade, the boys, the girls, everybody, right? From the 4th grade till, all the way, and still, right?
Still, yeah.
So I feel like they were in probably around 4th grade. And I can't remember if Maria and I were still together, because I know she gave it to me. There was a homework assignment that wasn't from Nicholas, that the teacher had sent home from one of our good buddies, Finney and Doherty.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Finney and Pie. So she had sent it home to Maria because they were studying Lewis and Clark.
Okay.
So how like the 4th grade thing, a little question, then a line, you write an answer on.
Yeah.
So the question was, just as Sacagawea was a guide for Lewis and Clark, if you remember your history.
I don't, but I can infer.
who evidently he was an Indian who helped them along their journey, right? I remember the name vaguely.
Yeah.
Who has been a guide in your life, 4th grader? He wrote down on it, Mike Alessio.
Wow.
And the teacher, in seeing that, had highlighted it, put a big smiley face, and sent the homework assignment home.
Gosh.
So it got to me, and it's been on my mantle ever since. That it was one of the most valuable thing and I shared this at the workshop too, that, whatever we were doing, it wasn't like I was overbearing trying to teach 4th graders life lessons, but that he perceived whatever we were doing or whatever discussions we had, or how he saw me in the light of being helpful in life, and that's up there. And the second one that, even more than the Ironman, or probably even the graduation from RIT, I was asked to be this keynote speaker at graduation last year.
I watched the live stream because of that. I wanted to hear you again.
I was so proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you Mike, you have energy. I mean, we all transmit energy to each other, right? And you can pick it up. Sometimes you'll get a little spidey sense going about somebody, but you have a very compelling and magnetic energy about you. And I think, kids are so perceptive on that. Yeah. And I think the fact that it's kind of what you see is what you get. You're very open, you're not closed off. And I think a lot of times around kids, adults feel like, okay, I have to be like in dad mode or parent mode and not just be an authentic person. And so I'm sure they picked up on that. And you guys still carry on the tradition, don't you, with that group of kids?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We do a lot of work together. We do some good stuff. And that was, I started a little thing on the side that at some point I'm going to get it back going. I called the Alessio Project. We had actually the building that Brad ended up buying from Bruce down below. We used to be a long time ago, the FL1 was down there with those glass windows down there. And we would meet down there, not just this group, but people would come. We'd have study nights. But you hit it on the head that I think that and it's why I love working with kids and sharing the story, is so that they are not fearful, because it's not, when I talk about addiction or alcoholism, it's not scared straight, like, there's always a possibility, especially now if you're doing drugs, that it could be your last line of coke that you do, if it's laced with fentanyl or something, but it's over. But that if I've always felt like, had things been a little bit different with direction or understanding in life, that you can avoid people going down that path. Yeah. And I think the key is to learn to talk to kids, be it seniors for sure, or even younger, with without stealing their childhood. Yes. Like adult, that they all have a little adult sense to them. That if you treat them with respect and understand that they also have the ability to shape what they're doing or ask good questions, that they'll respect you and feel connected to you. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like that's going to be such a huge part of, your legacy and just the impact that you've had on so many people. And, it's interesting because you never always know how much of an impact, like you probably didn't know that I remembered that and that I think of it often, but and that's one of the powerful things. And thank goodness that you stayed in this area and didn't flee, and because it's almost more meaningful that you've become like this local hero to so many people, and are still doing it. I mean, your story, you're still, how old are you now?
62.
So you're still writing this story. You sent me the picture of the flag on your house. Live a great story.
Live a great story. I saw that online. I said, I got to have that.
Got to have that.
Just hung it. Yeah. That it's funny because the story, it's not that it's not as relevant, but it's not as remembered anymore because it's been 20 years now. So even, and it was one of the drug court graduations I spoke at, and it must have been about 8 or 10 years after, so 2014-ish maybe, after I had already gone through drug court in 2004. And Steve Rickey was there, and because he came in more at the tail end of probably not hearing and being that for a ringside seat for my whole, debacle, he said, he only knew me from having seen Success or Mike 3-time Ironman, or I know he works at Bonadon and, as a manager up there. He only saw the good stuff but he had heard it, but he said, you know what? I was talking to him afterward. He goes, you forget, people forget. So, and even more so now, they only know me as, maybe Nick Jones's dad, or he was a coach, or they would never suspect. Some people, when they hear, like, are you kidding me?
I know. I know. I've shared it with my staff too, because they're in their 20s and, they're partiers and stuff. And so I share them. And like you say, not like a scared straight, but I'm like, maybe don't go down that road. I've been there before. And I had a moment that was kind of like that too. So Mike Petrocchi was on patrol a lot when I was going through my interesting times. And he was great. And he was always kind to me, despite me being a hot mess. And he had sent me a message maybe 5 years ago. And he just said, I was going through some of my old notes at the station and came across some notes from an interaction we had. He didn't arrest me or anything, but an interaction we had. He goes, and I have to say, he goes, you're one of my proudest success stories.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so nice. And so now I'm on a couple boards, and we had a meeting at the town offices, which is right next to the police station. And I was leaving there before he retired. So this was in the fall. And he pops his head out. He goes, hey, Christine, got your podcast on right now.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, oh, my God, how things have changed. And same thing. It was one of those moments of like, oh, my God, it's like you're living just a different life. It's just it's not even a new chapter. It just feels like a completely different book. And it's amazing. And I think it is really important to remind people that no matter how far down a negative path you've gone, you can always turn things around. Like, it's never too late.
Yeah, there's always hope, even within, I remember, so when after I got out of jail, so it would have been, I started getting into the program AA a little bit more seriously, and I had a sponsor who was great, awesome, loved him, he loved me, and he made me chair a meeting at in Geneva Hospital. So they used to have an inpatient there, detox unit. And it was the first meeting I ever shared, and at meetings subsequently down the road, and for years, one of the Bob, who has passed away from it, always used to share that he was in that detox unit, and he was about 73 or something, and he never ended up drinking again. But he always shared that I was the first AA meeting he ever went to that I chaired, and he was 73.
I remember Bob. From the meetings, I remember him.
Come pick him up. And he, and he had years, not a ton. I think he died at like 81 or 2, but those 8 years he was happy.
He was very
happy.
And
so was his wife. Because that's what I tell the kids, and one of my lines that I use with all of them is, practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes predictable. And I think that's the same thing with, be it good or bad. I was just a guy that bar was my thing. It was my habit. It was my go-to. and even if I only wanted to go for one drink, and I was committed to just a drink and go home, it never happened like that.
Never worked out. Yeah. Well, Mike, this has been so incredible. And is there anything that you want to add, a message that you want to leave people with?
No, I think just that, everybody has it in them, already. It's not necessarily, although it can be a matter of learning something new. I think often it's a matter of just uncovering the good that's already there and the hope that's already there that we can do, whatever you put your mind to. If you learn to ask for help and if you learn to help other people. So
never lose the ability to surprise yourself. It's great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this. Guys, please feel free to share this episode with someone who might want to hear it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching and listening. Be sure to follow us on all the socials: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.